This is the newest IEM from Tin Hifi. This is the Tin Hifi T4, the successor to the very, very popular Tin T2s and T3s. So let's open them up and have a look. Hey guys, it's Noel and this is Wheezy Reviews. Now, I've never been a huge fan of IEMs or ear canal earphones, much preferring the earbud style because I find that the ear canal types, they fall out far too easy, or they hurt my ears, or end up getting an ear infection. However, to be fair, I've not really tried anything more than, say, a £30 pair. So I've really only ever tried the budget end of things. And it wasn't until recently when I tried the Brainwaves Amiga IEMs that actually came with Comply foam tips that I had a bit of a revelation about them. And it wasn't so much the IEMs themselves, but the foam tips that were the cause of that revelation. Because with the foam tips, I found that not only can they stay in place, but they can also be comfortable. Now, a few weeks later, Tin Hifi announced the T4, and I've always been curious about the T2 and the T3, but I've never bought them because I always thought, well, what's the point? I'm going to hate them anyway. I'd never gotten on with IEMs. However, armed with this new knowledge that foam tips are the way to go, I decided to get in on the Indiegogo campaign for the T4s. I paid $79, which worked out to about £62 in the UK, and that included the IEMs, 3 extra pairs of the T2 blue ear tips, as well as a $20 gift card to spend at the Linsoles store, which I wanted to get something else from there anyway, so that worked out quite nicely. I think the actual retail for these is going to be $120, but I think even now you can still buy them for about $80. So let's take a look at the unboxing experience because it's really quite excellent. It comes in this nice black box with the Tin Hifi logo printed in gold leaf on the top. So when you open them up, it's actually a really tight lid. The whole of the inside of the box is lined with this really dense foam, and the IEMs here themselves in the top. Let's just get that out, put that aside for a minute. You also get a few different tips. So they come with the white silicone tips already in place. These are the medium size. And you also get the small and large in the baggie, as well as small, medium, and large black silicone tips. Also included are the foam tips in grey. These are the same ones that you would have got on the T3s. And with the early bird deal, I did get 3 pairs of blue tips. These are the same ones that were on the T2. So you're probably not going to get these if you order them after the early bird period. So also in the box, there is this really nice carrying case, which apparently is handmade from this really nice leather. It's got the Tin Hifi logo embossed in the top. This just is really fantastic to get this. The lid is held closed with a magnetic closure, which is pretty cool. Inside that, you'll find a stuff pocket on the inside of the lid. I guess that's for holding like spare tips or something, as well as a Tin Hifi business card for whatever reason. And we have the cable. Oh, I should note that the inside of this box is this nice brushed soft, it's brushed leather, which is really nice. Apparently these are handmade and they feel really stiff. I don't know if they have a metal frame. It doesn't really have any flex on the outsides. Top marks for this. This is really nice. The cable is silver coated copper or silver plated copper, and it's braided. It has a very nice soft touch feel. It's terminated at this end in a 3.5mm TRS connector, which has it is stepped at the end there, so it should be able to get through your phone cases or whatever with no conflicts. Also included is a Velcro strap to keep it tidy. At the splitter, we have this little metal splitter thingy. I don't know what these are called. I don't know what their proper name is. This is really cool. I know this is probably not a revelation for people that are into IEMs, but the ear hooks are pre-shaped. They have a sleeve over the ends of the wire, which is pre-shaped, and they have 2 MMCX connectors to connect to the IEMs themselves. Now, the IEMs themselves are very similar to the rather industrial design of the previous few models. However, they do have this nice sort of spoked effect, this knurled spoked effect on the end. It just gives them a little bit more style compared to the previous versions, which did have a rather industrial look to them. The left and right markings on these are red and blue rings around the MMCX connector. And on the cable, it's actually printed on the side. You can probably see that if the camera will focus on it. There we go. And the MMCX connector does clip in quite nicely, but I find that these are really difficult to disconnect after you've connected them. I don't know if there's a knack to it. I've been trying to jam my fingernails in there and pull them apart, which is no good when I've recently trimmed my fingernails, of course. Okay, they fit really well. They're really comfortable. So this little bead allows you to cinch these up so that the cable's not pulling on one side or the other. That makes them feel nice and secure. The ear hooks are nice and comfortable. They don't conflict with my glasses, which I was worried about. And again, this is probably not a revelation for people who are into IEMs, but the ear hook taking gravity out of the equation when it comes to putting the earphones in really does make a huge difference. They have a really good secure fit and they feel really comfortable. Obviously, comfort is going to be a personal thing, but the fact that they include so many different tips, 6 different pairs of silicone tips, as well as a pair of foam tips, and of course, because I got in on the early bird, getting the blue tips as well, I don't think comfort's going to be an issue for anyone. Onto the specifications of these earphones then. They have a 32 ohm impedance and a sensitivity of 102 SPL, which is reasonably sensitive, although not quite as efficient as I was expecting. Now, unlike the T2, which had a dual dynamic driver, which had a 10mm woofer and a 6mm tweeter, or the T3, which had a hybrid design with a dynamic driver and a balanced armature, the T4 has just one driver. It has a 10mm carbon nanotube dynamic driver. At first, it seems like an odd decision and a bit of a step backwards. The T4's got a price bump over the T3 and especially the T2. And the fact that they've moved down to a single driver from a hybrid design, when a hybrid design is generally seen on more high-end headphones, so they've gone down in price, but they've lost a more premium feature. That seems like a strange move. However, with this new 10mm CNT driver or carbon nanotube, it would seem that they're going for one really good driver instead of 2 potentially compromised drivers, and I think that makes sense. I mean, we are still talking about a budget pair of earphones here. We're not talking about a high-end earphone. So they are working to a budget for these. It's much better that they spend that budget on one really good driver than 2 slightly compromised ones. So on to sound then. I was worried that the single driver might mean a lack of extension and dynamics. However, nothing could be further from the truth. It's an incredibly dynamic earphone with a really rather balanced and somewhat warm, full-bodied sound signature. In many ways, this isn't too dissimilar to the HD650 in overall sound signature, which is a real thumbs up from me as far as I'm concerned. The T4 also has a surprising amount of openness. I was really expecting them to sound really closed in and really quite intimate, but they're actually not too bad. I'd never have thought an IEM could have such a sense of soundstage, but here it is. And actually, imaging is pretty good as well. So far, I'm very impressed. Bass performance is really quite excellent and articulate. There's a good amount of fullness and body. This is not an overly bassy sound signature, not like the Brainwaves Amiga, which were just bass cannons. But it's not lacking in bass at all. This is very close to what I would consider a neutral bass, something in between an HD650 and the K371, for example. This is a very inoffensive sound signature. Mid-range is excellent. In some ways, there's a slight U-shape to the sound. Vocals are not always quite as forwards as I think they should be, and perhaps sounding a little bit hollow in places. In fact, mids can be quite relaxed and sweet sounding. Treble, I think, is incredibly restrained, much like the HD650. There's a slight lean towards brightness or shout in the lower to mid treble region. However, never to the point that it becomes problematic, not for me anyway. Overall, I think this is a very balanced and somewhat neutral sound signature. There's a slight bright tilt to the lower mid treble, and the mids are slightly relaxed, but only slightly U-shaped. But on the whole, I think this is a really, really balanced sound. To say that I'm impressed is an understatement. Perhaps that's because I never really expected much from an IEM in the first place, but it could also be that the Tin Hifi T4 is really a fantastic earphone for an excellent price. And I think it's probably quite difficult not to be impressed by these. Now, I tried to do some measurements on these with my mini DSP ears, but the results were absolutely wacky, so I completely abandoned that idea. But I'm so impressed by these Tin T4s in a way that I've never been impressed with any other earphone or IEM style headphone ever before. Now, if an earphone can sound this good for $79, I really want to know what some of the more high-end earphones sound like. So I think this might have kickstarted an entire new avenue of audiophiledom for me to explore. So stay tuned for more IEM reviews coming from me in the future. And I think going forwards, much in the same way that I use my HD6XX as my reference for over-ear headphones, I think these Tin T4s are going to be my reference for IEMs. So whenever I do any IEM reviews in the future, I will refer back to these. But I think that's about all I've got to say about these for now. And I'm going to give them a seal of approval. I really like these. I'm so surprised that I've said that. So there we are then. This has been a review of the Tin Hifi T4s from the perspective of someone who doesn't really like IEMs and now perhaps loves them? Maybe? Anyway, if you like this video, then give me the thumbs up. And if you haven't already, perhaps hit that red button down there and maybe the bell right next to it. I'm going to have a lot more content like this coming out soon. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a good one.